Yes, 9 months ago, that was my country, Senegal. I'm sure that many of you know where is Senegal, West Africa, known as peaceful country, democratic country. And suddenly, we had this conflict in elections, and the women of Senegal intervened. Do you know the role of women in peace building? I'm sure you do. But let me share the experience of the women of Senegal when they face the eruption of this conflict. And I think that I might ask why I'm the one sharing the experience with you. It was said that 15 years ago, I initiated this movement for peace, women building peace, women preventing. As Kofi Annan, the former Secretary General of the UN, said, women is better equipped than men to prevent conflict. And that's why Resolution 1325 from the Security Council was born, to support this idea that women can make it. So let me take you into the journey, the experience of women of Senegal, how they did it. Like a military, they do their mapping, defining the different actors. Yes. And they started something that they call the 3M factor. I was there because I'm a Senegalese, and my organization was also supporting this initiative. The 3M factor, first is mobilization. I will come back to it. The second is mediation. The third factor was monitoring. So why do we need to mobilize? The women mobilize because you have two factions, at least, in conflict. The one in power and the other one which want to take power. About fighting about constitution, I'm not going to get into the legal, who was right, who was wrong. But you have in the middle what we call the silent majority. It happened, I'm sure, here, that you have two factions who wanted, this one want the power, and the other one don't want to leave the power. But what about those people in the middle, the women, the young, not just politicians, private sector, you name them. That majority need to be mobilized and to bring their voices. So the women mobilize. We start by mobilizing 25 NGO, and we continue with 1,000 women in white. You see them? And this was the model that we want to be recognized, women in white. White because they say this is for peace. That's our message. It's not just we want peace, but let's take Senegal first. We might belong to different political party, but let's see our country on top. That was the message. And let's solve the problem through the ballot and not through the bullet. I think that is the crucial message. So the women were rallying, going into rural areas, knocking doors, and making sure that their voices were heard, using media, and to say, we need peace, we don't want to see war. Mobilization. And this is the pressure group that were really making sure that the party listened to them. The second M factor, which we call the mediation, and I come back to that. You know, women use traditional method of mediation. We are better equipped. In Africa, you belong to one family, but you marry another ethnic group. Your children belong to another ethnic group. So you want to protect your mother, your father, but you want also to protect your children. So we are better equipped to be dialoguing in our community. This is one thing that we can say that the women are equipped to do the mediation. So wise women, women that we call the contact group, that was knocking door, going into communities, going into mosque, entering into the church, and sitting down, and sometimes sharing just a meal in the night to say, what do you think? Do you want war in this country? Or do we want schools, education for our children? Do we want health? What do we want? Because if we have conflict in this country, we will see the impact. As I said, the impact of war, especially on the women's body, as you said. You have seen it in the media, sometimes raped. So many. So the women said, no, we don't want this. We want the human security. The contact group was also able to do what we said, monitoring, because people were saying, then what? Do we have an environment where we can go and put our voting into the box? We said, yes, we're going to train a lot of observers and deploy them. Like I said, military, have the troop, deploy them in the rural area, in all the polling stations. More than 5,000 polling stations was visited by our troops. Here you will see that the first thing we did was also to make sure that the women that are in political parties they sign in a cloth, in a pain de la paix, to say that we wanted to have peace together. These are different women that are in different political parties, but you were able to bring them together. We also use a lot monitors, media, that we train and send them to report on issue of violence against women. They were reporting to us and say, this is happening, and we were able to liaise with the victims that we have seen in this conflict. We could not have those three factors effective if we didn't have a mechanism for conflict prevention, but also rapid response. That is what we call the situation room. The situation room was well equipped. While we're using our traditional method of conflict resolution, we also have the modern way of reacting. We had the mobile phone. Everybody has a mobile phone wherever you are deployed. We have all the legal support, political advisor, we have analysts, we had technical team, the contact group, the pressure group, everybody in the situation room reacting. Let me give you an example. When the monitor signal us to the situation room by phone or by whatever and say, this is happening in this polling station, the situation room will call the authorities. Either it is the Electoral Commission or the police, and they will react immediately and come back to us. So we were constantly monitoring what was going in the field and using also the radio to make sure that people are listening to us, but also encourage them to go to vote. That was the situation room. I can tell you that Senegal, one of the leaders who was marching off the street, came to us and said, when I hear your voice, That's where I start stopping the violence. That's the first indicator we got into the situation. The second is every political party came to visit the situation room and talk with the women to see, to give their position. At the end of the election, it was free and fair. The outgoing president called the opposition who win and congratulate him. Thanks to the contribution of the women, Senegal went to peaceful election. You have seen the newly elected president, his first visit was to the situation room. The first visit after the election was to come to the women to say, you have made it. You have come to support us. And I think one of the elements was, how do we engage with the young people? Because the young people were out there in the street, and in the mobilization, we were able to get them. So this is just a strategy that the women use by mobilization, by mediation, by monitoring, using the traditional method of mediation, but also the modern technology that we have in our hand to make sure that we can react to make peace happen in our country. The women of Senegal have been called to support the women, for example, of Sierra Leone, to share the experience, because they're facing also election and conflict. They have been requested by the women of Kenya to share with them their experience as well. I think this is something that we can learn, to say wherever you are, you can do something. It's better to prevent than to cure. Nelson Mandela have said something. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is inspiring others to move beyond it. I think the women of Senegal have inspired others, but I'm sure also, listening to their story, they are inspiring each one of us that we can do something. Don't wait. We know how much the UN is expanding into peacekeeping. A lot of resources are put in peacekeeping. So for us, we say you can invest on women, you can invest in community. So it's better to prevent than to cure. I thank you.